trees. I remember I was once in a program at school where I just planted trees for a whole afternoon in front of the school. Now this is a really good thing for the school because it provides a lot of shade, shelter, and it looks really nice, and it provides more air because, as we know, trees convert CO2 into oxygen, which gives us more air. Now, I've always been kind of weary about the fact that we shouldn't cut down trees, but then I think about the Aboriginals and natives that live in the forest and they have to cut down trees. So I always thought they're always good with nature, so how come they always do it too? But it came down to the conclusion that when they cut down a tree, they plant a crop in its place. The crop, when it dies, it decomposes and gives back to the earth. So they're not really taking anything away from the earth, they're just giving it back in a different source. Whereas we cut down those trees, throw them into a fire, convert them into maybe toothpicks, and then build a building onto the land that was once there. So we're not really kind of one with the earth, we're more just kind of destroying it. Now when I say we, I don't mean everyone on the earth. I just mean those that would rather make a profit than kind of stay renewable and spend a little more money. Now, another thing that is important, and I proudly do myself, is buy organic or buy locally. It reduces the amount of travel needed by the food, and it also, not that it tastes better, because I'm sure the international food tastes good too, but it also takes time for it to get here, and if it's grown here, we're supporting the economy, we're supporting the environment, and we're showing that local food and agriculture is needed in this country. So less trees need to be cut down to kind of build factories that build Nikes. Another thing that is needed, which I didn't do before, but I was the first one in my family to invest in it, is energy efficient lights. I could have easily just got my parents to buy more lights, but I decided that from that point on, which was about a few years ago, I should buy a pack of energy efficient lights and kind of do my part to kind of save the earth, save a little bit of energy, and yeah. Another thing was I became vegetarian. Now, this sounds like it might not have a big thing to do with being environmentally sound, but it does, and I will explain in a second. First, I'll explain the struggle I went through to become vegetarian. When I was younger, I remember I've always liked animals, and when eating meat, I felt bad for the animals, but at the same time, I hated vegetables. So I'd rather kill an animal than eat vegetables. Now, I realized this was wrong with me, and vegetables aren't as bad as I made them out to seem. So, from a young age, I've always cared about animals, and it's made it easier to become vegetarian. Now, before I became vegetarian, I remember I had a big struggle within myself, thinking to myself, I don't want to give up meat, it's not going to taste good without meat, how am I going to eat all these foods that I enjoy, I'm not going to be able to make it, I'm going to go back to meat in any second. But a good friend of mine told me, just try it and see how it goes. Which I did. And I can proudly say it's been 6 months now, and I'm still vegetarian, saving the animals and trying to save the environment. Now, the reason being vegetarian is important to the environment is because of those factories that they build for livestock to give us meat have actually taken up 90% of Amazon forest. Also, to feed and give the livestock water takes about 50% of the US's water and food. Another point of fact to pay attention to is that factory emissions are more harmful and give off more CO2 and greenhouse gases than all cars, automobiles, planes, ships, trucks, every kind of vehicle that gives off CO2 combined. And my final point is we should always, even though it might be a little more expensive to invest in environmentally sound products, in the long run it is better. If, for example, take a dishwasher. My family now personally invested in a dishwasher, which did cost money and a hell of a lot, but in the end it does save money, it does save water, and it does save the environment because less water is used and it's more efficient on the energy. Now, the thing that needs to be noted and remembered as a final point of mine is it's all about finding alternatives and a different method and source of doing things. So, if one way of doing things is very destructive, there is always another way to do it that might not be as good to you as you first see it, but with a little work, in the end, is more environmentally sound and thus better.